Get ready for Unriveted Radio on Super Talk 1270. Now, here's Travis Feist and Rob McLeod.
Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of Unriveted, a Dakota Customs original. I'm your host, Travis Feist, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Rob McLeod.
Morning, guys.
Morning, fans.
All you great fans out there. Hopefully, you're sticking with us.
Yes.
Hopefully, we got some new fans.
Hopefully. We still haven't seen a lot of comments come through, but I'm hoping that they'll start piling in here pretty soon.
No, what's even cooler is when we get the comments in person.
Yeah, which we have.
We have, yeah. Even just with my network of people that I know, they've said hats off, like good job, like it's great content. So, which is, this is not us. This is not really who we are, but that's kind of the whole basis of a podcast. And I feel like there's definitely some that kind of flow better than others. But
you get us on a subject though, and we can roll,
that's like what we're doing right now, trying to get rolling. And once
we're rolling, then we're rolling. But it is a new thing for everybody, and I do agree. I have been out in public, and I've had people come up and they're they tell me, "Hey, great podcast, man. You guys are doing awesome." And hey, thanks, I appreciate it. And it'd be kind of nice to actually pick their brain and be like, "Are you listening to us on the radio? Are you listening to us on our website? Where are you listening to us?" Just to see. But I guess it all comes down that they're listening, so it all
it's all that matters. And what I've heard is that we're really natural. It doesn't seem like we're trying too hard, or we're like directing the podcast like it's orchestrated in any sort of manner.
All right.
Like, and that's the whole. That's what makes podcasts so enjoyable, because there's no BS involved. It's just us raw.
Yeah. And I like, yesterday we had Mid-Continent come over, and still, they stop in probably a couple times a month, and they just take random videos and shots, because we're putting a commercial together, so they get different avenues and some different progress stuff on what we're doing, and so that we can produce multiple commercials and to advertise. And so they stopped over yesterday to take some pictures on a project that we're working on, which is that 55 F100.
Yeah, hopefully this new commercial was as big of a hit as the one we did with
got a lot of shares on those other ones.
A lot of shares, a lot of people that actually straight up jobs. People said, "Hey, I seen your commercial. Looks like you guys are the shop to handle our project." So
and
it's a nice showcase.
Yeah, and we're trying to do multiple stuff. We're trying to get for the bikes. We do the restoration, the hot rods, the accessory part of it. So it's not just the same thing repetitive.
Yeah,
but trying to show different stuff that we do. And so Brandy Otto, she's kind of like in charge of our account, and she stopped over while they were filming, and she just had to ask that question. So what are you guys all doing to this thing? And I think by the time I was done, between the blue bike, which I had to show them, and that Ford, I think like an hour and 20 minutes went by. And she says, every single time we do this, I always forget to throw a mic on you first and then ask you the question, because she's like,
dude, that would have been great sound bits.
Yeah, it would have.
You're like, I feel like that's when I portray what we do the best, is like when I'm giving a shop tour. It's like, it's just like you're in the moment,
right?
You're trying to like show someone how passionate you are. So that'd be like no different that you're trying to. Brandy was right in front of you, and it's like it's like when someone just asks you about it, though, knowing that it's going to be used as a sound bit, it's like
it doesn't flow quite like when you're just caught off guard and asked.
Yeah,
and I get it. And the thing that's nice, like just like anybody, if you have a passion for it, that's it's at a whole different level. And when you know, having a passion and somebody asks,
it's not hard to pick out either
right.
from another standpoint.
Right. So which was nice to kind of talk about some of that kind of stuff that we had going on.
Are you as theatrical as I am when you're like, I feel like my hands are all over the place.
Yeah,
it's like full on I got to watch where I'm throwing these elbows, you know?
Yeah, it's like when you're telling a story, it's like you just tell everybody back up a couple feet because we're going to get arms
real.
And we're maybe some high kicks too to kind of add in there. So you never know what you're going to come across. But next thing you know, it's like you're talking about something, and then it's, you know, like I took him over to that blue bike that we built for Dave, and so I was telling Brandy and her cameraman, I forgot what his name is, but super nice guy, and Neil, yeah. And he's always intrigued. Like every time he comes over, he's kind of like a kid in a candy store too. He's always asking questions because he's not really much of a car guy, but he finds it interesting. But he's not like a gearhead or nothing. So he kind of gets excited about it. And
I think a lot of times is people see these cars being built on shows, and then when they see it in person, they see each stage of all the vehicles that we have in our shop. It really bridges the gap. And that's what I feel like people find interesting because it makes sense to them now.
Right.
You know?
And the thing that's nice, like even when you say that, it's, you know, kind of getting back when I was showing them about Dave's bike, and when you're explaining, and it's like, well, see, look at right here. So then you got to grab them and you point it out, and you know, it's like, hey, we put this ignition switch over here. Like, come here and look. And then you grab them, and so they're like seeing what you're seeing, and then they're like, oh, hey, that's cool. And even, you know, like for instance, that Impala that, you know, that we've been working on for a while, and when you just tell them like, yeah, here's a 66 Super Sport that we modified, your average person is going to look at it and be like, nice, shrug their shoulders and be like, oh, okay.
Cool. Yeah.
But when you grab them and you start, you know, that's where the hands come in, and you start pointing out all the stuff that you've done to it, and next thing you know, like their eyes will raise up and they kind of understand your lingo, and they understand what you're talking about, and then they get an interest even more on what you're talking about.
It's funny that I've shown so many people that car just because it's been with us since I've started with you. Like, I can pretty much, like, not that I'm not as excited, but I could recite word for word, verbatim, what I'm going to say when I'm in front of that car. And it's just like, and honestly, I've got it down to where it's like, before I'd walk someone around that car, it'd be like 5 minutes. Now I get the point across in like a minute, and it's just on to the next one. So, but and another cool thing with Dave's bike is, like, I've shown a lot of people that bike now too. And I've kind of like, will nonchalantly hit the ignition switch, and they're like, "Wait, what'd you do there?"
Yeah.
And it's just like, I don't tell them what we did, and I was just like, I just hit the lights, like, wait, back up, what's going on? And like, that's all I get a kick out of that, because they're like mind blowing, like,
yeah. And it's funny when you watch people and they walk off from the showroom and they come walking out, and then they just, like, you see this. They see something in the corner of their eye, and then they just do a double take, and they're like, whoa, hey, what's up with this bike?
Yeah, they just kind of get the tip of the iceberg, and it's just like, well, we're probably going to be talking about the tip of the iceberg for a good 20 minutes. Yeah,
let's show you.
But yeah, we got another 12,000 square feet to go, so.
Yeah, and I think a part of it is, too, it's the storytelling, and obviously with the podcast, you know, we try to tell stories to keep it interesting, and I feel like it's the same way, too, when I don't really get to give a lot of tours, and I'm all right with that, probably because of time wise.
But that is like, you're like, I try to treat it like it's my baby. Maybe someday it will be, but you, like, when you're showing people, like, I don't know if you're probably show a little bit, not that I'm not as passionate, but you probably show more passion, because I mean that's you. I mean, you've built that. So I could easily see where you would enjoy kind of, you know, showing people all you've accomplished, you know? Yeah.
And it's nice, and I enjoy doing it. And I think, like, with me is as you walk from one project to the next, you know, I give the back part of the story, like why
and
why
know
I came
more
here,
too.
why I came here, and reason why it's here, and then I explain to them what we've done so far, and then it's like, and this is what we're going to do, and I already know in my head how I want it to look. I already know where we're going to put everything. So then I explain to them what the future progress is, and so I pretty much build the whole car right in front of them as I'm showing them every project, and I love it. It's interesting, and I know when I give a tour, it's probably about an hour and a half, and you can probably do it in 45 minutes.
I think I've got it down to like 10
half an hour.
Yeah.
But sometimes I don't mind it just because I enjoy it, because, again, it's all about, you know, I have that passion for it.
Yeah, I guess I would love to, like, I still feel like someday I want to, so I feel like my ultimate goal is to, like, and it's going to be impossible. I want to, like, I'm good where I'm good at, but I want to, like, I just enjoy, like, the hard fabrication, and, like, I want to do what you do in the shop. I mean, I'm nowhere near it, but, like, I want to, this coming up here, I want to build some brackets for my reservoirs on my shocks for my truck. Mm-hmm. And I just, like, when I had my shop, I loved doing that. But so that way, like, when I'm given, if I'm more of a hands-on guy, and say, like, I'm potentially on a vehicle, which I probably never will be, but but, like, I could explain to them what the direction is. I got an idea, but, like, I can't relay the vision of what the end result is like you can, because you obviously have that vision and I don't. Mm-hmm. But and that's what builds excitement. You know, just me giving hard facts to, you know, whoever I'm showing. You know, it's interesting, but it's like it doesn't give them that mental picture of what it's going to be. So
but you got to realize too that everybody has to start somewhere. You know, you can't just jump in with 2 feet. I mean, and knowing the ins and out of a vehicle part wise is a huge thing to start out. But, you know, just like I said, anything, you work your way up to it, and never say never. But I do know that with you working for me, that you use my toolbox a lot, and we'd have to work on your tool skills first before I cut you loose on just building some stuff. But there's an etiquette that you have to follow.
I put the stuff back where it needs to be.
Yeah, but there's a difference between metric and standard, and what goes where and how to use it.
And I just put it back how I found it.
Yeah, well, you don't do it very well.
Oh, dang it.
But hey, you know, baby steps. But I
can address the details.
Yeah, but it is true. Yeah, hey, thanks.
Amy, we're gonna
But you know, it's true, and just like with anybody, I mean, it's to want to learn this stuff, it's you have to start at the very bottom, you know. And even when people come and work at my shop, have even, you know, some of these young employees that they want to be taught, and I'm like, well, you want to be taught, there's a broom. If you can clean up and you can organize your workspace, that is a huge thing on starting. Or it's like, all right, that car's getting ready to leave, wash it. And it's like, I can tell, just because of my skills that, you know, I've washed cars.
Yeah.
I started out at the very bottom.
There's definitely a wrong way to.
Yep. And it's like, just by washing somebody and just how they care about it and go about even washing a car, it actually shows a lot, like if you're going to make it or not. And you wouldn't think, well, washing a car would have nothing to do, but it actually does, because it's all about, you know, how you're going to care for that project.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of ways to look at it, but every little bit does work, and it does come in effect to being a better, you know, fabricator or what have you. But,
you know, even though we do custom work, there's still a procedure to about most of it. So, and that procedure allows you to do the job efficiently and allows you to get the result that you need. So, just like there's a procedure to cleaning the shop, there's a procedure to cleaning the car. You know, it's like, certain way things need to get done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And especially, I mean, some of the cars that we work on are pretty expensive.
Yeah. It's honestly a good thing that I still don't ever just wash a car. I still get nervous around these cars, and I'm glad that hasn't gone away because it allows me to still care about what I'm doing.
Right.
So it's like, I don't know. We always talk about riding sleds. It's like, but if you're not scared in the mountains, it goes wrong. You know, being scared makes you aware.
Yeah, it does. It keeps you sharp.
Yep.
And that's the thing too, is even when you talk about washing cars, when Sean used to work for me until he moved, his previous job was he was a detail manager.
Yep.
And Sean was a great employee. He was first front sales guy, being that he was a manager for many years. Like, he was good customer service. So putting him as a parts guy up front was really, like, it was a smart move.
He handled a lot for you, though.
Yeah. But he had, and we weren't quite, I mean, we were busy. I mean, I thought I was, like, hit my peak. And that was, like, nothing compared to what we're at now.
Yeah.
But he had such a love for the vehicles to where his reward was when that car was ready to be delivered, he was so, like, I'm gonna detail that car.
Dude,
like, he loved, and he would go out there and he would grab everything because he knew, and he would make that thing shine, and he had so much pride in it. And he was not much of a mechanic at all. But man, when the enjoyment he got when that customer showed up to pick up their car, and they're like, wow, and he had that thing just gleaming, and that's where his pride came in, and that's what he loved, and he had such an act for it, and yeah, he was good at it.
Yeah, I like to see, and I tell this to a lot of the guys, to just see have the car ready how you would like to see it. And a lot of times, me and the guys are not on the same page because they're like my rig's pretty spotless. So it's crazy that how far that goes with the customer. They're like, "Oh no way, you washed it?" I was like, most times I try to. Just, and you know, we're being real here. Sometimes it's a lot easier to slip that bill, that final number, and have them pay it, and that car is clean. You know.
Well, it shows like a gratitude of, you know, it's like
it is like
you brought your vehicle to us. The least we can do is make it look nice when it leaves here. So it goes both ways. You know, it's kind of showing that appreciation in return. And
it actually, you know, on certain aspects, it shows off. It just amplifies what we did. You know, you do a 6-inch lift with new wheels and tires. You stick all that on a dirty truck. It's like it doesn't. Yeah.
It doesn't.
So it doesn't help the wow factor.
No, and I think my OCD kicks in. It just drives me nuts.
Yeah, same here, and that's why. Even there's been times where it's been like the roads have been still crappy out, or it's been too cold. It's like it would be an absolute waste of time to wash, and it's still my OCD kicks in. It's like, man, I'd still like to see this car clean though.
Yeah, I know. And I know it's tough, especially during the winter that we had here. And I think it was even I think it was Ekblad that came from Williston, and he brought his son's truck down, and it was I think it stormed. Was it the storm that he got here right before the storm hit? But the roads were bad all the way going back, and he came I think the second day because we had a bunch of stuff to do it, and he was getting ready to leave, and it was sloshy, snowy, and we're out there washing, and he's like, "Why?" Like, you know, but it's what we do. You know, and we still made sure that thing was at least rinsed off for the most part before it left. And we knew like it was going to get dirty instantly as soon as he left here. But he was still very appreciative that we took the initiative to do that. Or
it's like the fact, like a lot of times when we do new wheels and tires, I'll leave the stock tires out of the box just to show exactly how the stance of that particular truck, car or truck mostly is going to look.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, now we'll load it up.
Yeah.
You know.
Now we'll
So it's just like we got to like
give them that wow factor.
Full circle.
Yeah.
This is what we did. This is what you paid for. Because I know how far a dollar goes these days, and it doesn't get you very far. So when people are willing to spend their hard-earned money, and the surrounding area is mostly blue collar, they work hard for their money. Whether you being at a desk, you're still working hard,
right?
So it's like I take that into consideration, and that's like shows our gratitude. It's like, hey, you spent your hard-earned money with us. Thank you.
Right. And speaking of the wow factor, so we have a customer that came to us probably almost 2 years ago already now with that. Was it a 32 Ford?
Yeah, 37 Ford truck. Ford,
yeah.
Yeah, the Axmans.
Yeah, and
from your neck of the woods.
Yeah, from Williston.
Yep.
And it's a family heirloom truck.
Yeah.
And
there's actually a little bit more of a backstory, but so Gunther Harms, who is your cousin.
Yep.
I think I went to middle school with him, but anyways, we always snowboarded together, and we've always stayed in touch. And so Gunther's the petroleum engineer. John was a petroleum engineer, but he worked with Gunther.
Mm-hmm.
And so they must have been discussing this project, and Gunther's like, go see Travis and Dakota Customs, go see, reach out to Rob and see how far they can take it. And we were the only place that they checked out, and they pulled the trigger with us. And when we pulled the trigger, that means sticking a fully handmade one-off chassis underneath that truck.
So it's actually kind of funny that you say that, because it's crazy how my cousin from my neck of the woods, not knowing, is one of your good friends, and you and I didn't know that right away. But then after one day, we're just like, hey, I got a friend, Gunther Harms, and I'm looking at him like, what? Dude, that's my cousin.
Friend? That's my cousin. Yeah,
that's my cousin.
And actually, I knew that you guys were related. I just forgot about it. So when I was working for Randy, and he knew I was working for Randy out of that shop, he's like, oh, you're right by, I don't think you were there at the time, at Tommy's shop.
Yeah, well, through Planet, we were right beside. That was years ago.
So he's like, yeah, those are all my cousins right down in the, a few shops down. Mm-hmm. So yeah, but
it's kind of crazy how that went down.
Yeah,
but it's
Then we got Robert on the other hand.
Yeah, his dad's he's a good guy.
His dad as much as the character is my dad.
So we ended up ordering a Scott's chassis for
Scott's
that thing,
hot rods,
and it was a fully loaded suspension, everything chassis, and that was right in the midst of COVID, and what
on the tail end of it,
headache that's been. And so what the 12-week turned into,
we about lost that whopper a
couple times.
Yeah.
But we hung in, and the thing that's nice about it is, we talking to the customer and explaining to them it's, you're kind of on their mercy, and, that whole COVID thing that put a dampener on their business at Scott's, and the 12 to 14 week build turned into 15 months. I think.
Tripled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More than tripled.
And honestly, the information I kept relaying to the customer was accurate, but it sounded like a run-of-the-mill excuse.
Right.
So, but it was accurate, and I really just had to, put my trust in Scott's, and there in turn, John had to put their trust in us that this is what it is, this is what we're dealing with. And it turned out they were kind of revamping their entire system of how they were getting these chassis out the doors, and there was some learning curves, some things that weren't falling into place like how they should have. So that's what pushed it off. And I think a few times I heard they were fighting for help. So
well, and
I always got to take that one with a grain of salt. But it's usually, if that's what it is, well,
right,
there ain't no getting around that.
Yeah.
So,
and I think they were on a shortage of parts too. I think because I mean, they have to get all their parts for suspension and everything else.
So yeah,
they were on that end of it too. They were struggling trying to get everything to fill their orders and stuff like that. But it was nice. Friday, we got
the team and got that thing off the van.
It was nice to see that thing finally show up. And
I think what really helped was I kept on telling John that as long as they provide us what we're paying for and it's as high quality as they say it is, just got to let them do their thing. And the nice thing is that, so John actually went back to the 50s in the cities, and Scott's had a booth there. And he's like, Rob, I saw their chassis. They're amazing.
Mm-hmm.
They're very well built, well put together. They know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was kind of our saving grace. And that's what I kept on telling John was just, hey, sometimes, Rome wasn't built in a day,
right?
Type of deal.
And sometimes a lot, quality, you're going to have to wait for it sometimes,
Yeah.
If it takes a little longer and you get what you pay for, it all works out in the end.
And yeah, we were honestly between a rock and between a rock and a hard place. What are we going to do? Start the process over with the roadster shop?
Yeah.
Then it's that same timeline. Then it's just like, just let it play out. Just have a little patience. But yeah, it's here.
It was nice to see it.
I just went through it, checked it off. They did a great job on that chassis.
Yeah. And we've done work with Roadster Shop and Scott's, and they both provide some pretty amazing chassis. They're pretty top of the line, very well built.
Yeah, they like I said before, I probably said it on the podcast before, but what you're paying for, the hard parts and the labor to build that frame was, I don't know, maybe $14,000-$15,000. But what you're paying for is the time that they took to design that frame.
Mm-hmm.
And so our other option for getting this build done was to take a S10 frame, chop it up, reposition everything, to get it to work underneath this 37 Ford truck.
But you wouldn't have had the same outcome, though.
Not even close. I mean, we could have, if we were to try to build that chassis with an existing frame of some sort and modify it, we'd have double. We'd have double into it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, a lot of times it's I'm hearing a lot of it more and more from these customers that these chassis are a no-brainer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's crazy that they say that when these chassis are upwards of $30,000.
Right.
So,
but if you pay somebody and then you pay for all the parts and assembly and make it work and the R&D, it's not cheap either, and you're still going to have a good investment into it. So they've already done the R&D. They already know, they have the build cards and everything else, and it's like work smarter, not harder. And if you're actually going to use this vehicle and travel with it and drive it and everything else, a full chassis is that's where it's at.
It goes a long ways. And when I was double checking the axle specs, the spline count and the bolt pattern, I was just looking, I was like, man, it would have took me an hour and a half just to figure out what I need.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't have to anymore.
And we don't charge for that. So just
no, I can't. Yeah.
And that's all donated. And so to think if you were going to charge for all that and add it on to that build, it would all add up.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is the foundation of what you roll down the road on. So it's extensive. And you can't make a mistake.
No.
And if you make a mistake, it's costly.
Right.
Yeah.
And kind of speaking of mistakes, it's Motorcycle Awareness Month.
Oh.
A lot of bikes are out it's getting kind of nice now.
What do you mean? What are you referring to as mistake?
Yeah.
Sunday?
Well, I was actually going to lead into, be aware. It's motorcycle awareness, so don't make the mistake. Drive careful, blind spots, look out for motorcycles, listen for them, and then also driving motorcycle.
Beware of cops.
Beware of cops.
I'm fully back to blue, and I simply didn't see them.
we had a talk about this earlier. You need to get this whole burnout thing figured out because the attempt in Deadwood was a fail. The attempt here didn't turn out so good.
The burnout was great. The surroundings, who was watching,
you actually, I mean, it was actually so great. You got 3 points for it.
Yes. I had to look like the most cocky SOB in front of this cop because I just blatantly did it right in front of his face, and he was a good sport about it. And so yeah, the burnout was epic. Me getting a few points dinged off my license and paying a fine, that was not epic.
Yeah,
but
so that was your reward, though. I mean, at least you out of 12 points, you got 3. So I mean, that's not too bad.
Yeah, that's fine. What? What? So this road glide I've been pulled over twice already on it before this, and each time the officer's like, "Yeah, by the way, nice bike." So he didn't say it. This officer didn't say nice bike this time. So I need to pick up the phone and get some bike parts coming.
I think we should do is find out which officer it was and write him a letter and be like, at least, did you like the bike? See what he says.
It's like, and I was actually going to write a letter to the city. And it's like, if you guys don't clean up these streets, I'm going to keep spinning my tires. Yeah. Well, every time I spin my tires, I get pulled over. You see the problem here?
Yeah. So if you clean the streets, I want to spin my tire. Yeah.
And, I could go after them for a rear tire and a clutch. I don't know.
I've seen your clutch skills in South Dakota.
Dude, there was such an underlining to that deal. Like, I know
you're gonna have to redeem yourself on that one. Hopefully, you won't get rewards like points and stuff on that one.
Every time I do a burnout, either I get pulled over, or I smoke my clutch, or look like an idiot. Well, I look like an idiot both ways.
Or all of it. You get all of it. I think you got almost all of it in Deadwood.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That's enough about me.
Move on.
Enough about me.
But it is getting serious. It is motorcycle awareness. There is a lot of motorcycles out. Even just working last night, just coming by the shop, they're in big groups. They're out. They're cruising. Got to make sure you be aware of your surroundings and watch out for motorcycles. And it's only going to get worse as it gets nicer. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, make sure your bikes are in good running order. And if they're not, well,
call Rob.
Yeah, we can take care of it. Yeah,
we should be able to do something.
Yeah. Your bike's going over to Big J's.
Yeah, hopefully
get the winter dust knocked off it. So
that was kind of my goal all winter long, with probably about 50 other goals that I accomplished none. But hopefully now I can get it over there and get it detailed and get it clean. But
I forgot how good that bike looked.
Yeah.
Just for and that's like your most stock bike, and that thing is still pretty well done. Just gloss black, everything.
Yeah.
Sick.
Yeah, and out of all my bikes, this is probably the most settle that I've ever owned.
Oh, for sure.
But it still catches your eye.
I still look at it.
Yeah.
It's a road glide, that's why.
I think so. I think I've told that story before. When road glides came out, I was like, man, I don't know. I wasn't digging it. I wasn't feeling it. I just thought they looked so weird. But then it's like, I started working on them, and they started coming in the shop, and you're like, I can see it.
Yeah,
I can see it. And now,
but definitely a factory road glide, ugly.
Yeah,
you gotta spruce them up here. Yeah, and there.
You got to put a little into them to really make them pop. But I don't know why, but now I have this road glide, man, I think it's my favorite bike.
And then it's after you ride them, that's when it just comes together. But.
Yeah. No, I enjoy it, but it's going to be nice to see that thing all polished up and nice. Get it ready for the season.
Yeah, we'll have to put some miles on.
Yeah, I'm always up for it.
Yeah.
I think I've worked enough this winter that I can take some evenings off and go ride.
Dude, even if I'm leaving and if I catch you in the middle of, like, if I know you're going to be at the shop for a couple hours, like, I'm going to shut the lights off on you. Go ride.
Yeah. That'll always be there. We can come back.
That's right.
Yeah, shop will always be there.
So we got a new team member, Cato.
Mm-hmm.
He initially reached out to me, and he's a very reserved individual.
Yes.
Especially off like an initial
like a first impression.
First impression.
Yeah.
So it was hard to get a vibe off him.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's why I was like, you know what? He seemed like I gave him a little shop tour and just kind of threw some basic questions at him, and he just to a T answered them. But I was like, okay, time for you to talk to Travis.
Mm-hmm.
And so far so good, man.
Yeah, he's not much of like a conversationalist, I guess. He's kind of in between. Like he says few words, but they mean a lot, if that makes sense.
Yeah, he's well spoken.
Yeah, very well spoken.
But he just doesn't speak a lot.
And I know when I interviewed him, when he actually had like full hair and like facial hair and stuff, I'm looking at him and I'm thinking, God, this guy's got to be pretty close to my age.
How old is he?
Not even close.
Is he like my age?
Yeah, I think he's like early 30s, I'm thinking, is what he
Okay.
was. Because I asked him, and I think he told me, I think he's 30, 32 maybe at the most.
Sure.
Yeah, I was way off on that one. Well, then he came to work that day, and he like shaved his head, and he shaved his facial hair, and didn't even know who he was.
I think at least I'm not the any group of people you put me in, I always had the least amount of facial hair. That's just what it is. But I think I got more than him.
Yeah, and you don't have much.
I ain't got much.
No, and I think you got him beat. Yeah.
Heck yeah.
But super, I mean, good technician.
Yeah, so far so good. So
yeah,
really he cares.
Yeah,
and that goes a long ways.
Yeah.
So yeah, glad to have him on board, and we needed that. We needed that guy.
Yeah, we're like again, we're busy. We have a lot going on, and so it's nice to have somebody, just like everybody that's in my shop right now. It's they all have a passion. They're smart. They're all good workers, and like I said, even with Cato, he doesn't say much, but when we have a job come in and I'll team up with him and ask him and show him, I mean, he's right on point. He gets it. He's
usually one step ahead.
Yep. Yeah. He's always on the same page as me, and that makes me feel real good. And he knocks it out. He's a worker. He's a very time orientated. He takes his lunch almost every day exactly the same
time. Which is nice. Yeah.
Yep.
Doesn't take 2-hour lunches.
Yep. And I think he was military too, I believe.
Yeah, he was up there actually.
Yep.
He was sergeant. Yep.
Yeah. So I think that probably had a lot to do with it too.
That's when you are in the military at a young age, the behaviors that are taught, they don't usually go away.
Right.
So they're instilled.
Yeah, but he's a very, very good employee. So I'm glad that he's on our team. He's fairly new, but so far he's been knocking out of the park.
He's been striding well.
Yeah.
It's nice having a guy like that for certain jobs. I can just put him on and know he's going to do it thoroughly, and I know he's going to, do it to the best of his abilities.
Mm-hmm.
So far, he's been getting them all done.
Yeah. So I'm glad to have him on our team.
Definitely.
And speaking of team, it's crazy, but just barely over a month, we're going to be already in June for Buggies and Blues.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's like, and that's going to be here like tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's going to come so quick, but that is something, that whole weekend, the Buggies and Blues weekend, I think everything kicks off for sure on the 9th to the 11th, but there's Buggies and Blues, there's Adeline's Believers, there's the Big Rig. We got Steve Darnell coming to town. Hopefully we can get him over to our shop. Kind of sounds like, honestly, that we're going to be able to get him and peek his head in our shop, so that'll be cool to have him check us out.
Yeah.
But got a lot coming up, a lot going on. There's car shows left and right. I know we're getting a lot of invites to come over to multiple car shows and showings. It's going to be tough to hit them all, but let's see what we can do. But there is a lot. And I feel like, too, you go back 3, 4, 5 years ago, and it didn't seem like there was as much going on as there is now, or I just really wasn't paying attention to it. But it's just there's a lot of even new car shows that are happening, car events, motorcycle shows. I think there's even motorcycle runs. There's a lot more than there was. Don't forget, even like Scotty's. I mean, they have the hangout. They have like a weekly deal, I think, or is it? I think it is
Cruise
Tuesday?
Night. Cruise night was last night, and I think it's twice a month.
Yeah, well, they have the Bismarck and then the Mandan one. So there's 2 cruises a month. But I know Scotty's, they have their ride and dine. The cars come over and sit and show off. They do a lineup over Buggies and Blues weekend. They do a show and shine, which the last one I went to was a couple years ago. And I think it was the biggest that they've ever had. And they ended up taking out an additional side of the street for more cars, and then they had them double parked in their parking lot, which they haven't done that before. And so, I mean, there was oodles of cars over there, and so that's even grown too, as much as everything else. So, a lot going on.
I feel like maybe like through the, what do they call it, the 20th century? Like, was that 2000 to 2000? Not the century, but like, I feel like around like the 2000s, like at the turn of the century, like the hot rod industry and everything wasn't heading in a good direction. And now I feel like we're trying to preserve it. We're trying to preserve, and we're that's why there's more events. People are making a valid effort to keep the youth in. And like, hey, this is what's cool. Mm-hmm. Like, loud bikes, custom bikes, loud cars, fast cars. That's what's cool. And I feel like there's people realize, like, hey, we need to do something to try to preserve, like, this something so special. So that's why I feel like there's more bike runs, more bike shows. And so we kind of went through that lull of them kind of dying out, and people realize that that era, or that, I don't know what you'd want to call it, that, I don't know, but they realized that it was kind of phasing out, and then they stepped in. It's like, no, we got to get this back on the map. So I feel like that's why it's there's more shows and all that.
Well, it's getting to be a lot popular, and it's getting to be a hotter item, and I feel like even if you take people, and I'm just going to say it in a general area, just like in a general bucket of a population, and you take that person that probably bought their first quote-unquote hot rod, regardless if it was a car, truck, whatever, classic, what have you, and let's just say that was 10 years ago, okay? They enjoyed it. They probably outgrew it. They got the love for it. They got the hunger for it. And then it's like, wow. Now I need something maybe a little faster, a little louder, little, and I'm not going to say that they got bored of it. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that they liked it and they got addicted to it, just like, and I'm going to say this, like, like buying a gun. Like, you buy a gun, your first gun, you're so jacked up, you're excited, but then after you shoot it for a while, you're like, I almost got to have another one, but maybe a little bit bigger, a little bit better, or maybe shoots a little different, or what have you.
Right.
I think the car industry is kind of, and even motorcycle, I think the same way, that once they get the taste of it and they get the feel of it, that they're wanting something that to add either to their inventory or to, they'll sell it or trade it in and exchange it, replace it with something that's a little more radical, maybe a little newer or bigger motor or different options. And I think it's that craving that people like. And,
right.
We see it even in our shop we've got customers that they've evolved in different vehicles, and you can tell like they're getting a little faster, a little louder, a little more crazier.
You've seen that with the side-by-sides.
Yeah, side-by-sides, the same thing too. And I think people, there's a ton of people that crave that. And you'll always have your guys that it's like, you know what, I built or I bought my high school car, or the car that the wife and I or the husband and I met, and it's like that's their memory vehicle, and they'll always keep it, and they're happy and they're settled, and they bought their one vehicle, and it is what it is, and it'll stay in their garage and get handed down. And there's those people. And then there's the people that, have always wanted a hot rod, and then they buy a hot rod, and then they get that taste, and then they're like, well, now I kind of want that same hot rod, but I want it like step it up.
Yeah.
And they want, bigger, louder, and faster,
or even like in a different aspect, a lot of times with like youth, they want that need for speed, they want power, they want torque, and they got that, but sometimes they don't want to drive that all the time, so they want like a cruiser.
Mm-hmm.
They want like something that rides nice, something with some creature comfort, so they will hang on to that muscle rod, but then they'll maybe transition into like an Impala, or like a big body car,
mm-hmm.
and they'll kind of maybe transition like for ease of comparison from like a pony car
mm-hmm.
to like these like a big body GM car or something
mm-hmm.
like that, or a big body Mopar or something like that. And like same thing with like bikes. Exactly like me, I started off with crotch rockets, realized it was way too much performance for I had the discipline for.
Mm-hmm.
People will start off with like a Sportster, and then they'll maybe jump up to a Heritage,
mm-hmm.
and then they want to go full bagger.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, it all kind of, as they progress through life, their wants are different.
Mm-hmm.
How they want to spend their time when they're either riding or driving
mm-hmm.
changes. So, and that basically just expands everything. You add a second or third car to your fleet, or a second or third bike to your fleet. Well, we got more of them on the road now.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and how many people? I mean, that's just here. I mean, let's just say you go over to the West Coast or East Coast or down south,
Texas, big
and you see these people, and they have multiple. They have their show cars, they have their daily drivers, and everything else. And look what we see up here, but I guarantee you, it's way different and bigger when you get out into the surrounding coasts and see. And and I'm the same way too. Like, I love my Chevelle, I love it, but it's not practical. It truly isn't. I mean, when I want to get my fix, I'll take it out and I'll ramble through and get my obnoxious adrenaline rush and everything else. But to drive that every day, nonsense.
Yeah,
stupid.
Yeah,
and I'm the first.
And the car's not designed for it either.
No, not at all. And but that's how I built it. That's what I designed it for. And it's kind of like what you said. It's, you got that need for speed, that radical, that obnoxious, that thrill ride. But it's not something you want like every day. You want something a little less reliable. And I think a lot of people are like that both ways. I feel like, just seeing as our customers come in, they have their daily driver that they love, but now they want to invest into that excitement, so now they're buying that or building that project as a side to be like, you know what, when I want to, I'm going to take my hot rod or my custom bike or my whatever it is, get my thrill out, but I still have my reliable, cool daily driver that's neat and I love and it's comfortable and everything else. And then you might have the person on the other side to be like, man, I got this cool car, it's awesome, but I'd sure like to drive something like that that's more reliable.
Yeah.
And then they go the other way because they want both worlds. And it's more common than you think it is, actually.
It really is.
And
or even like from an exterior standpoint, something with some that just stands out. Well, sometimes people don't want that attention all the time. Like,
right.
You can't even drive it anywhere without 2 or 3 people wherever you stop coming up to you. So it's like sometimes someone still wants something cool to drive, but more subtle.
Mm-hmm.
To where, but then again, then you got them guys that appreciate the subtle coolness and they'll come up. But like, it kind of leads me into like, kind of running low on time here. But on the next podcast, I think people will want to hear this. Well, the next podcast, me and you sit down, we're gonna have a car, or it can be any car in the world, and we're gonna pick one for each day of the week that we'd want to drive. Mm-hmm. Monday car, Tuesday car, Wednesday car, just all depends like how our weeks go. We can't do it right now because I'd have to think about it.
Right.
But I feel like, so like when I going back to like people want to drive with what they're feeling,
mm-hmm.
you know, and when you kind of make a decision based off how you instinctively feel, well, that's just when life's good,
mm-hmm.
you know.
And sometimes too, just like when you were saying, like I love my Ford, I love my truck. It's,
Dude, have to fire up a diesel truck every day, do we though?
But it's like, do I want to drive a crew cab truck every day? I mean, it'd be nice to hop in a little car. I mean, and my biggest thing too, it's got me is when you go and try to park it in places.
Yeah,
it's like, man, I would love to have some little 4-door, little 2-door car, but you know, it's like, is it justifiable? No. Not at all.
You usually need a truck every day.
Yeah, but it's, you know, it's like, again, you know, it's the difference between wants and needs.
Yeah.
But anyways, and a guy can go on and on about that, but
we will.
It's definitely crazy how this whole industry has increased.
It has
throughout it, and it doesn't matter on the financials or anything. It's just the whole industry itself has involved
a greater appreciation.
Yeah, and it's gotten big, and I think that it's never going to die. I don't think it's going to go backwards. It's only going to go up, and we will elaborate that again on another podcast. But it's grown.
And honestly, I think we obviously got to thank the founders of hot rodding, like
mm-hmm.
George Barris and all them. But I feel like Discovery Channel and Jesse James, they brought that industry to light to essentially everybody that had cable.
Mm-hmm.
And now these shows that are still continuing on, that I feel like that is like a sole reason why. I mean, granted, it's TV,
mm-hmm.
but it keeps everybody involved,
mm-hmm.
and it keeps everything relatable,
right?
Essentially.
And when you go back and you think about, I mean, hot rodding's been started in way back since Prohibition. Yeah. So I mean, it's been around for years. So it's not like, hey, this is a new thing. It's been around for years. But I feel like, and this is my opinion, that there's always been your diehard hot rodders, your custom guys. You know, Gene Winfield. You know, dude's I think like 125 years old or something, and he still rocking it. You know? and he so like these custom, you know, lead sleds and all this stuff. I mean, that goes back for years, and they've been around for years. But I feel like it never really blew up until you had Motorcycle Mania, Monster Garage, when that whole era started airing on TV and got the custom bike thing started. You know, you seen that took off. The car industry, when you start seeing Monster Garage, next thing you know, there's more shows popping up on fabricating and building cars that I feel like since that whole era, it just took it to a whole nother level, and it's been at that level, and if not more, since then.
Yeah, there was one show, and I think it aired on a couple seasons after Monster Garage, but it was Chris Jacobson was the narrator. It's called Rides, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved Monster Garage, but they didn't go into the detail that Rides. So Rides would showcase one specific car, and like I was probably 8 or 9 years old, but I could just everything that was being shown. I was like, God, it's unreal. Like like that was my favorite show for sure.
But just saying, like that opened up the, you know, and I know people are gonna laugh, but you know, the Pimp My Ride came out.
Yeah.
The overhauling, you know, was starting to come out. It, you know, like all these reality car West Coast customs. You know, it's like
they had their own deal.
They started, and And those are the ones I can think of. But that whole era, all these shows started, revolving and I mean, look where we're at now and I wouldn't say it's all because of the show, but it definitely made an effect on today's world. There's still TV shows. There's, the car market, the motorcycle market, the custom world. There was always a custom world, but I feel like it's not like what it is now. And I think that public in your eye thing took it to a next level. I feel like it did.
Well, yeah, and even it's like all these cable companies, all these broadcast companies, they literally saw the numbers. And they said, we need more of this because everybody's watching it.
Yeah.
And the fact that everybody's watching it, that just means everybody's interested. That's what they want to see. And I remember listening to the Chief and Sean show, the guys from Street Outlaws, and they basically aired one of their shows. They did a podcast the next day, and they got the numbers back. And their Street Outlaws show had more viewers than Monday Night Football, which is crazy. Huge. Yeah, they were the highest rated show anywhere.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So I mean, it could have been the Jets and the Dolphins playing, but who cares? Yeah,
it's probably the Bears.
Yeah, the Bears.
But again, it's even talking about, look at even Orange County Choppers.
Yeah,
think about
people went crazy over that show,
and not only
that show probably provided you with food on your table for a while because they wanted you to build exactly what they saw.
Right.
Or something similar.
Yeah, and even to this day, a lot of people will refer and they'll remember them as the guys that built the bikes or the father-son argument or the fighting, but it still made an impact on the motorcycle industry, no matter how you look at it, it made an impact. So again, I feel like you put all that into a bucket and you lit it on fire and it blew up, and that's where we're at today. I feel like it all kind of escalated that movement of where we're at. Even it's like, Yaffe's been killing it, but do I feel that if we never had that whole era of the TV shows and stuff, would he probably be still where he's at now? We don't know. But I feel like, did it help? Probably didn't hurt. That'll take us to another episode, which we'll save. But
dude, I like these podcasts. I like these ones.
It seems like we never have. And can you imagine if we were actually sipping on or drinking, and we would probably have a 4-hour podcast.
Should we plan for maybe a Friday night podcast one time?
We'll see.
Yeah.
Stay tuned.
Yeah.
If you have any comments or anything or want us to talk about something, please comment on our Facebook, our website. There's a spot for it. Definitely reach out. You can send email. We have multiple ways of getting a hold of us for the podcast. Don't forget to listen to it Saturday mornings at 10 o'clock on 1270 AM radio. Check us out. We'll have it on YouTube. On our website, we'll have a link that you can link on and watch and hear our episodes. They're on Spotify, Apple Music, a lot of the, I think SoundCloud.
Find them anywhere.
Yeah, they're out there. Just type in un-RIVETED and you can listen to our podcast. And again, comment if there's anything that you want to comment on or want us to talk about. Definitely, shoot a little message over and see what we come up with. And again, don't forget motorcycle awareness. Watch out for the bikers. They're out there. There's a bunch of them. Be aware.
And if you're on a bike, watch out for the cops.
Yeah, and also
they're also out there.
Yeah, they're watching.
They are watching.
Yeah. So thanks for listening. We'll catch you on next week's episode, and have a good evening.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening to Un-RIVETED Radio. Also available on demand with the SuperTalk 1270 mobile app. Download in the App Store or Google Play today. Un-RIVETED Radio, presented by Dakota Customs, a full-service custom garage on the Strip in Mandan.